Hello everyone, my name's Caden and welcome back to more Chaos Head Noah. Last time... I don't know what's real in this game anymore. It feels... The biggest drop that happened last time was the realization that things are really not making sense anymore in terms of those crimes. Some of the crimes don't match up with what we've seen before. The group dive that was set that I could have sworn was originally supposed to have been, and the victims were 5 girls, was apparently now being said to have been 3 guys and 2 girls. And then the freaking, the crucifixion case, the crucifixion or whatever, that's being said to have been caused by, or that one is not like 1,000 stakes in the person's body. No, it's just like 10 surrounding it, no blood at all, which doesn't make any sense because we saw blood everywhere. So evidently something's really wrong here, but let's just continue. Maybe things will make more sense. I get the feeling they're going to only get confuser though. Confuser? Confusinger. Confusinger is even worse. What? More confusing. Let's go with that. Science City was a pair of buildings located just south of the Shibuya Scramble Crossing. A small plaza rested in front of the entrance to the east building. While it was not nearly as big as the ones in front of Hachiko, the Moyai statue, or other popular destinations, it still found itself used quite often as a meeting place. Even now, around a dozen people were staring at their cell phones, waiting for their engagements to begin. Oh, hey! Among those few, only one girl wore an oddly stern expression on her face as she idled. A high school student known as Aoi Sena. Yeah. She was standing next to the escalator leading down from the Inokashira line station. She's the one with the greatsword-looking weapon. She leaned her back against a nearby white pillar as she thoroughly scanned the environment with her gaze. In contrast to both the sharpness of her gaze and the season, she was nibbling on a popsicle, which in turn made her appear incredibly charming to the casual observer. In truth, the girl was not waiting for anybody, but was instead quietly observing the passerby. From where she was standing, she could see all the way to the Jumbotron located at Scramble Crossing. A music video from a famous singer was being displayed on it, and on the lower portion of the screen, a news ticker was reporting the latest information on the recent string of incidents, colloquially referred to as New Gen. I cannot say the word colloquially. Not a day went by without New Gen related news. It was everywhere. TV, newspaper, the internet, weekly magazines, jumbotrons, electric billboards. Everywhere. Although Sana had absolutely no interest in the phenomenon, she would often overhear people speaking about it as she passed them by on the streets of Shibuya. Whose eyes are those eyes? Over the past few days, she had begun to see several people wearing t-shirts with those words emblazoned on them. In Shibuya, the phrase had become popular as an obscure meme, and it was now starting to really take off. Despite the brutal scene the words originate from, people happily walked on down the streets, raving about how well the shirts were selling at souvenir shops in Harajuku, a clear indication of how disinterested people were in anything other than themselves. Sana snorted quietly in a contemptuous display, finished the last bite of her popsicle, and closed her eyes softly without losing her stern expression. She listened carefully to the noise of the city. An abundance of different sounds billowed in front of the station on the Sunday afternoon. The roar of trains arriving at the platform, the blaring of horns of taxis, people walking and talking, the background music coming from the jumbotrons and from inside the Science City stores, the announcements telling people how to safely ride the escalators. The sounds were never allowed to end. Before one sound finished, another one would appear, creating a multi-layered discord that rang throughout the station. In the midst of all the discordant noise, Sana focused her attention only on the people's voices. Her mind blocked out all other sound, and their words soon became clear. He's gonna end up being Sin Killer after all? No way, Corey. I mean, would it be real freaky? You can trendy and not just his words. Don't talk shit about Fantastic. You actually like it? Not creepy at all. Oh, come on, don't tell me you're one of their friends. He's living on a fine. Whatever, just get to the part where you borrow his CD already. Yo, dude, check this out. Oh, yeah, it's totally much. Yeah, I remember when I was sick. Selling them, it's super cool. I had suck my dick. Isn't this kind of stupid with a new gen killer out there? All the thing's basically screwing it. Then again, if that happened, my mug end up on the news. Finally get it to make my nationwide debut. She's gotten real freaky recently. It's been super. I just want to hurry up and catch it. It's like a real horse I have. It's like there's too many going on. I was trying to read like a tiny bit of every line, but I couldn't even do that. There was too many. A short click of the tongue escaped from Seino's mouth, and she stopped listening soon after. There was nothing of value to be found in any of the noise. After all, noise was simply that. Noise. The ceiling of someone's gaze on me. Am I imagining it? Once more, Seina examined her surroundings. For a while now, she had been feeling a repulsive sensation, like cold fingers caressing her spine. A gaze being cast upon her by an unknown entity. One with which she was unable to pinpoint exactly what the source was. Seina pushed herself off the pillar she was leaning against. Then, if she had just remembered something, she stared down at the popsicle stick in her hand. Looks like I lost, huh? Gradually growing more and more discontent, she wrinkled her brow and began to walk quickly toward the station. She lost? What? That sky. Why is it so blue that it makes me want to cry? Guess someone wished for it to be. I didn't wish for it. No, but I did. What? 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 Because this place is your image world, but at the same time it is mine as well. Hey. Sky. Where is it? Wherever you wish for it to be. Is it okay for me to wish for it? What? 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 Good morning. Come on, it's time to get up. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Seraton was calling me. Last night's episode of Bloodtone was awesome. Seraton played a huge part in it, and there was a super hot kiss scene. The animation quality was practically movie tier 2. If you wake up, I'll give you a good morning. What am I saying? Stupid. Good to meet you, dope. Seraton. Plus, she was saying such moe things that I couldn't not wake up. Thank you, Takumi. I tore the blanket off my body and got up from the sofa with a groan. It's only a sleep for you, big dum-dum. Keep on sleeping in a bash you with a samurai star condenser and wake you up real good. The moment I turned off my alarm clock, the voice of Seraton that had been echoing throughout the room disappeared. Morning, Sarah. The Sarah alarm clock I had was very useful. If I didn't turn it off, the volume would slowly get louder and louder. And if I still didn't get up, an obnoxious buzzer sound would ring out. I wanted it to be Seraton who woke me up in the morning, so I made it a point to wake up and turn it off before the buzzer. I'd only failed to do so once or twice so far. After all, being woken up by Seraton was a great way to start the day. Waking up was the absolute worst. Played Vigia until dawn, and then the couch had been extremely uncomfortable once I had actually gone to sleep. But having her wake me up helped alleviate some of that pain. Today was a school day. I skipped a day last week, so my minimum attendance chart was really starting to fall apart. With the chart, I had only slated to go twice this week, but because of that deviation, I was stuck having to go 3 times instead. I didn't want to go, but it'd be much worse if I didn't. If I missed any more days, I wouldn't be able to graduate. Then again, whether or not I graduated made no difference to me, to be honest. Just a moment ago, I'd been having a dream with Rimi in it. It was a strange dream. One that felt terribly wistful. One that felt terribly lonely. One that felt terribly sad. And one that felt terribly distant. Would Rimi come to school today? I've been thinking about the day before yesterday constantly. I've been thinking about it so often that I'd even forgotten to play ESO yesterday. There'd been the appearance of Shogun and the delusion where everyone in Shibuya had disappeared, but I was barely giving either of those things any thought. It had to have just been a delusion of mine. Yeah, that was the other big thing. We saw someone who claimed to be Shogun, but their appearance didn't make any sense. They had the body size of like a small kid, but they looked like an old man. Man. And they were in a wheelchair and being the lone person existing in Shibuya. And yet, that alone also doesn't make sense that they were claiming to be Shogun because, according to Yua, Shogun and had to have been the same. Shogun and Nightheart had to have been the same person, aka Shogun should have been Takumi. Which, going by this train of logic, would mean that that kid or that old kid in the wheelchair or whatever would have been Takumi. So either that's some kind of future version of Takumi, alternate version of Takumi. I don't know. There's no way Shogun could be such an old man, and the idea of people just disappearing from Shibuya or whatever was completely ridiculous, so there's no point worrying about it. It'd been a horribly realistic delusion, sure, but the fact that I'd allowed myself to fall for something so unrealistic so easily, and get all freaked out about it, was just embarrassing. But regardless, above all else, I was thinking about Rimi, the girl I had been calling the demon girl until only a couple days ago. Again, what's going on with her? Most of what I felt back then was shaky and surreal, as if it were some sort of dream. I could still vividly remember the sensation of Rimi's body embracing my own. Rimi is the biggest anomaly. There are a lot of anomalies going on right now, but Rimi is one of the biggest, I feel, because we saw her being the murderer of the crucifixion case. I know I keep calling it crucifixion. I'm just calling it crucifixion. I don't know how you actually say it. I think it's saying crucifixion because it separates the cruce and the affiction part, but I'm honestly getting tired of saying crucifixion, so I'm just going to say crucifixion. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make. What was I trying to say? I forgot. All right. We saw her being the one who was committing the crucifixion case. She was definitely the one doing it. She had the stakes. She was the one covered in blood. But now we're seeing a version of her that doesn't at all relate to that, it seems. There's one thing that I'm wondering right now. There's only one thing I can think of at the moment that might make certain things make sense if possible, but my theory in and of itself makes no sense. The only thing that could possibly explain some of the discrepancies is what if there's two different realities that Takumi is somehow switching between? If there were two different realities that Takumi was somehow finding a way to swap between, then it would explain how there are discrepancies between in all the different things we've seen. How it seems like there's a version of Rimi that's the murderer, and a version of Rimi that's just a normal high school girl. How there's a version of the crimes where 5 girls fell, and a version of the crime where 3 guys and 2 girls fell, and a version of the crucifixion case where the guy was stabbed all over his body, and a version of it where the guy was just hung by the crosses and instead strangled. If there were somehow two different realities that Takumi is somehow able to swap between, then I feel like that could explain why there's seemingly so many discrepancies. But that in and of itself also makes no sense. How exactly is there another reality, and how exactly would Takumi be swapping between them? Of course, there's also the fact of delusions. And at this point, I don't even know what's technically the real story and what's fake. Because for all I know, half the things we've seen in this game have just been delusions of Takumi. At the very least, things that we can confirm are real are the new gen cases. While the exact specifics of certain cases can be called into question, the existence of the cases is not called into question. There were still at least 5 people who fell to their death, still a guy who had a fetus implanted in him, there was still a person who was hung by crosses, and there was still a guy that was basically turned into a human banana. Those 4 cases exist in seemingly both situations, delusion or not. Again, the details may be questionable as to which is real or not. At the very least, the new gen cases are real. It's just what version of the new gen cases are the truth. And then there's the whole deal with Remy. Is the version of Remy that's a murderer real, or is the version of Remy that's simply a just a normal student real? And then, of course, there's the D swords. We've seen a couple different weapons now. So, in the intro, we saw Remy that had a D sword that looked more like a bow. But if we Sena had a version of a D sword that makes me think of like a great sword of a kind. Fez has a version of a D sword that kind of reminds me of like a rapier or a lance. And we also saw one other new D sword weapon that from that little girl that was also a new transfer student. We couldn't really get a good look of it, but from the little bit that I could see, it almost made me think of like a great shield or something, like a giant shield of some kind. Again, I'd have to get a better look at it, but just from the little bit that I saw, it looked more like a shield than a sword, honestly, or at least something that would protect you from attacks. If she hadn't done that, I could have gone insane and lost myself completely. Why had Remy saved me? Maybe because we really were friends. I didn't have any memories of us being classmates now, let alone since first year. Nor did I remember going to the movies with her along with Misumi-kun. The way she treated me was definitely how you treat a real close friend. She'd even seemed like she'd been close to crying when she held me. That, at the very least, I didn't think was an act. That was the first time I'd ever seen a girl care about that, let alone cry over an otaku freak like me. When she treated me like that, all my fears and suspicions were blown away in an instant. In fact, it made me feel like I might fall in love with her. No, I obviously couldn't let myself do that. Confusion invaded every corner of my mind. How was I supposed to act around Remy from now on? Was Remy my ally or enemy? There's another oddity that I've neglected to mention, the phone call. The phone call that happened when Takumi was on the roof. It played that song that they said was a song that plays like at a crosswalk to help with those with like visual disabilities or whatever, I think. But but halfway through the song, it would suddenly play a loud buzzer sound. What was that all about? Why was that a thing? The only thing I can think of at the moment, and again, this on its own is also insane to me to even say, is what if it's some kind of premonition warning or something? Is it going to be something that happens? Is there going to be a case where we hear that crosswalk song and that loud buzzer outside of the phone call? Like, what happens after those sounds play? Was Remy the new gen culprit? She saved me. That was an undeniable fact. But it was just as much a fact that I'd seen her standing still as could be at the scene of the crucifixion, covered in blood. On my way to school, I stopped by Shoto Park. After what happened with you, I had put a stop to my habit of eating breakfast there before going to school. There was no way I could feel even remotely relaxed when I thought that Yua could be watching me from anywhere. And even if I ignored that, if she came up to talk to me, she would start going off about her irritating, delusional schizo bullshit all over again. I keep hitting the button on accident. I didn't want anything to do with a girl like her. Yua was Remy's underling. Sure, my original guess may have been incorrect. That didn't mean that Yua wasn't my enemy. It was still possible that Shogun was the boss of the whole thing and Yua was one of his underlings. Either way, I knew I'd be better off staying as far away as I could from her. And yet, I found myself coming here today for some reason. I examined my surroundings carefully to make sure that I couldn't see Yua anywhere. But once I knew the coast was clear, I slowly sat down on my usual bench. I took a bite out of the chocolate bread I bought from the convenience store, then looked out at the pond. There was next to no wind, and the surface of the water was calm and serene. I could see the occasional shadows of carp-esque fish gliding through the murky water. The park was unusually empty today. It was a very quiet spot. As my gaze wandered across the park, I couldn't help but think about Remy. To be honest, I'd been dreading going to school today. I knew I'd have to face her if I did. That was the real reason why I was stalling at the park. I felt like I'd said a lot of awful things to her. And yet the smile on her face never faltered, and she always treated me like I was a close friend. And I was sure that when I went to school today, she would keep on doing that as if nothing had ever happened. She'd smile and talk to me like we were friends, pretending that she didn't even care at all about what happened in front of 107. It's hard to put into words, but I felt a little bit annoyed about her constant cheerfulness. Yet at the same time, I also ended up feeling more cheerful myself when I was with her. I wasn't sure how to act once I did run into her. It was true that I didn't think she was a demon anymore. But honestly, I didn't think of her as a friend either. Misumi-kun had said that she and I had been really close classmates for the past year and a half. But I didn't remember anything like that at all. Maybe it really was because of the person controlling me. But making my memories of Remy, and only Remy, disappear with pinpoint accuracy like that, there was no way that was possible. Yeah. Upon entering the school building, I lowered my head even farther toward the ground. As was my usual MO, I kept close to the wall and walked slowly toward the staircase. My class was on the 3rd floor. Getting up there was a pretty big hassle. They could really use an escalator or something. Oh, it's you! When I reached the foot of the staircase, I spotted a girl climbing up unsteadily up the stairs. She was dragging her right leg a little as she walked. Maybe she twisted it. Her petite body swayed from side to side. She looked extremely unstable. As our students passed by her one after the other, the girl slowly continued to climb, exactly one step at a time. Watching her from below, I would be able to see... Stop it! What did that just say? Alright, I just had to make sure I read that right. With that thought in mind, I stepped onto the stairs in order to pass the girl, but right when I did... Ow. The girl caught the tip of her shoe on one of the steps and she immediately staggered. Ow. Whoa. And she fell down so hard you could almost feel the crash sound effect. Fortunately, she ended up falling on the landing, so she hadn't fallen down the entire staircase. She was still down on her knees from the pain, though, and was staying pretty still. This be a flag? Stop it. Yeah, no. Even if it was, calling out to her or anything even remotely similar would be impossible for me. So I hurriedly slipped past her. Sorry, but you should get some womanizer who was actually in the 3D to help you, like Misumi-kun. You really shouldn't rely on me. The girl was staying curled up on the ground so motionlessly I started to get a little worried. I was halfway up the stairs when I slowly turned back and turned back around to check on her. The girl was gripping on the railing and trying to her absolute hardest to stand back up. Her knees were trembling. She looked like a newborn fawn or something. Her knee was oozing blood. Maybe she scraped it. Her face. I'd seen it before. Wasn't she the girl who transferred into my class last week? What was her name again? I couldn't remember. Wow, she was crying. Did it hurt that badly? The fall had definitely been pretty bad, but not bad enough that she'd cry from it. There was nobody else willing to lend her a hand. After just barely managing to stand up, she bent forward and peered down at her knee. She must have been checking to see if she'd hurt it. The transfer student wiped away her tears, set down her bag on the spot, and started rummaging around inside of it. What was she looking for, I wondered. Suddenly, she raised her hand above her head in a triumphant manner. Clasped in her hand was a band-aid. Her eyes met. The transfer student was red and surprised soon after, then hung her head. Regardless, she looked like she was okay, so I was sure she'd be fine without me. Thinking that, I hurriedly made my way to class. As per usual, I kept my head down and my gaze fixed on my toes. And while still remaining silent, I took my seat. When I sat down, I remembered that the transfer student had said something to me on the day she'd transfer. I'm so happy we're in the same class, or something. Ugh, sorry. I'd forgotten all about it after everything with Remy, but I wonder what she meant by that. Yo, Taku! Still according to routine, Misumi called out to me. Maybe he didn't have any other friends besides me. He'd always talk to me and no one else, so I was starting to generally suspect that. Listen up. Okay, so, yesterday, I saw these two sketchy old dudes going into the principal's office. Hmm? So, when I saw that, Remy and I both went straight to try and eavesdrop on him, and we were totally shocked by what we heard. Those two guys were detectives. What? Detectives? Oh, was it those two? Yeah, they were going over the whole school roster. They looked real serious. Maybe it's got something to do with New Gen. Maybe the true New Gen culprit was someone at this very school. I couldn't help it, but a face popped into my mind. Remy's.
Oh, he did end up catching us when we were eavesdropping, though.
I jumped. Speak of the devil, Jesus Christ. I felt my heart rate leap when I heard Remy's voice invade the conversation. I couldn't look up. I was too nervous. This was a completely different kind of nervousness than last week's. That's because you decided it'd be a great idea to go on and open the door. It's your fault.
Oh, come on. I couldn't help it. I'd never seen a real detective before, so I was obviously a little excited, and then I just kind of did it.
How the hell did you just kind of open a door? Thanks to you, we had to get questioned by those two dicks, too.
Hmm? What's wrong, Daichin? Got something you don't want the big, scary detective to hear?
Don't you?
Gee, I wonder.
Misumi-kun and Remy were having a conversation with my desk sandwiched in between them. They were completely ignoring my existence. But to be honest, I was grateful for that. Even if Remy did talk to me, I didn't have any faith that I'd be able to say anything back. I was hoping that the bell would ring before they got the chance to say anything to me, but when I glanced at the clock, I saw that there were still about 5 minutes until class started. Yeah, that reminds me, Taku. You keep yawning, it's making me yawn, man. Did you see Kozue-chan on the way here? Kozue-chan? Who? Oh, right, I figured you probably wouldn't remember because it's you and all. But you really don't, huh? The transfer student from last week, Orihara Kozue-chan. Oh, so that was her name. Orihara Kozue. On the stairs. Stairs? I saw her. Oh, that's so. Looks like I'll be right back. Misumi-kun's voice gave off an aura of intense enthusiasm. I hadn't seen him this energetic since a few days ago when he found that the fest was from the next class over. In other words, I'd never seen him give his all for anything except girls. Which reminded me that just last week, Misumi-kun had already gone on to hit the transfer student the moment she'd arrived. You really are incorrigible. You got a girlfriend and everything. I hope you're real proud. Hey, Kozue-chan's seriously cute, don't you think? He asked me something I had trouble answering. I moved my head down ambiguously, which she apparently took as a yes. Yeah? I fell for it at first sight. All I want to do is protect her. All the boys agree. Every one of them says she's cute. Girls, on the other hand, can't stand her. She's got a real low reputation with them. Which is crazy, since she only just transferred. Despite that, though, they're all super quick to call her annoying or whatever else. This class has got way too many girls with shit personalities.
Isn't all that kind of your fault, Daichin? I mean, isn't the main person who's calling her annoying your girlfriend?
Yeah, I guess. What's your point?
My point is that of course you'd find her annoying. Any girl would be like that if they saw their boyfriend hanging on another girl right in front of them. Even I get into fights with her a whole bunch. She'll say stuff like stay away from Daisuke-kun, and she's far from the only girl who's told me that.
You serious?
You don't even know. Would it kill you to even do a little self-reflection?
It's just way too tough out here for a popular dude.
And there it is. My fault for expecting anything different from you, the enemy of all women. I'm not gonna cover for you anymore, you got that? Hey, Orihara-san's here.
Wait, doesn't she kind of look hurt?
You're right. I wonder what happened.
She got hurt back when I saw her on the stairs. I obviously wasn't going to tell them that, though. I was trying to avoid talking to Remy in any way possible. I'm gonna go check up on her real quick. Sumi-kun ran up to where the transfer student was. Thanks to that, Rimi was the only one left standing close to my desk. Sumi-kun, please don't go. No delusion. Rimi didn't say anything, but she didn't move away from my seat either. Considering the fact that I was hunched over so far on my desk that I could nearly stick my teeth into it, I couldn't see her expression. All I could see was her waist, but if that were true, that would mean she had been facing she had to be facing me. In other words, she was looking at me. No. I should probably say something. Maybe a greeting of some sort? But it wasn't like I ever greet people normally. It would be even more unnatural for me to suddenly start doing it out of the blue like that. Maybe I should bring up the transfer student. It wasn't like I ever chat with Rimi normally. It would be even more unnatural for me to suddenly start chatting with her out of the blue like that. I could thank her for the day before yesterday? No, before I did that, maybe I should apologize for being so rude to her after everything she'd done to help me. I could also ask her why she'd been there back then. I could ask her if maybe she hugged me because she liked me. Or I could ask her about why she was at the site of the crucifixion. No, none of these topics were conversation starters at all. What was I supposed to do? The silence put more and more pressure on me. I knew I ought to say something, and I knew it would be awkward to stay silent, but I still couldn't force out any words. I hate 3D worlds so goddamn much. I was tired of almost choking over or just trying to talk. I just wanted to hurry up and go home to my comforting serotonin.
Hey, Taku?
Rimi's voice suddenly broke the silence. I jumped in surprise and a shudder ran through me. I still couldn't look up.
So the day before yesterday, were you okay after you left?
Rumi's voice was quiet. I felt her breath faintly on my ear. When I looked up in surprise, I realized that she moved her face really close to mine, and she was now whispering in my ear. Rumi's body was right next to mine. A soft, warm body that hugged me in the middle of that road. My mind was going completely blank. The only thing I could think of was the sensation of Rimi's body against mine.
I was really worried. I didn't know whether you got home safe or not.
I nodded frantically several times.
Okay, I'm glad you're okay. Never do something dangerous like that ever again. You got it?
Upon telling me that, Rimi made to leave the classroom. I felt the sudden urge to ask her something. She just said something dangerous like that. I wanted to ask her, back then, what did it all look like to you? Considering the fact that she hadn't mentioned anything in particular, it seemed like she didn't know anything about the people temporarily disappearing from the streets of Shibuya, nor anything about the wheelchair-bound Shogun. Which would probably mean it'd just been one of my delusions after all. That was why I wanted to ask her. But I didn't think I'd be able to look up and do so after all this time. Either way, I couldn't do it today. I couldn't even prepare myself to ask her. So next time then, I'd ask her the very next time I came to school. Yeah. I should probably organize the questions I wanted to ask her before then.
Huh? Look, Taku, Orihara-san's coming this way.
A transfer student? Why was she coming over here? Was she going to come down on me for not helping her on the stairs earlier? She didn't seem like the type of person to do that. Or maybe she wasn't coming up to me, but actually wanted Rimi for something. The transfer student came up to Rimi, then stopped. She didn't say anything. What the hell? As long as Rimi was here, I couldn't raise my head. The transfer student's toes were fidgeting, but she still didn't try to say anything.
Orihara-san, what's wrong?
For some reason, the new student timidly then placed a single bandage on the edge of my desk. It was a fancy one, with a picture of that weird character, Garo Froggy, emblazoned on it.
Huh?
What? Was she giving it to me? How do I react? This Orihara Kozue girl was kind of weird. What?
Oh, no, Orihara-san, don't cry.
What? Was she crying? Why was she crying? Was it because I didn't say anything? But the transfer student hadn't said anything to me either.
I don't think Taku's mad or anything.
Remy swooped in to cover for me. Come to think of it, that was a little bit odd. I didn't know next to anything about Remy, and yet she knew a lot about me.
He just doesn't look people in the eye all that often. He's an introvert like that. There's no need to be all shaky or nervous, okay? Huh? You give me a band-aid too? Thank you.
Keep hitting the wrong button. With that, the transfer student bowed her head deeply to Remy, and then she sped her way back to her seat. It was almost like she was running away or something. Why do you give me band-aid?
I have no idea what just happened, but I think you should probably take the band-aid, Taku.
Why had she given it to me? Kazue-chan, a girl of few words, ain't she? I got the feeling Misumi-kun had come back. I gave her a tour of the school on her first day.
Wow, you were real quick to get your hands on her.
Hold on, I haven't done anything yet. Anyway, on that tour, we spent about an hour, give or take, running all over the place, and I was the only person talking the whole time. As you can imagine, I got pretty worn out. Oh yeah, and she's pretty quick to cry too.
Yeah, she really is. She started crying out of nowhere just a second ago. So I got all freaked out trying to figure out what the heck even happened.
Just goes to show an instant. She really is. Gosh dang it, Taku, your existence makes me yawn for some reason. Hey, Taku, you get it, don't you? You know how cute everything she does is, don't you? If I were to put it in neat speak, she's moe as all hell. What's up? You take a shit? What? Shook my head from side to side as hard as I could.
Taku, you haven't said a word for a real long time now.
That's because you're here. I wasn't ready for that. I never talked to a friend who was also girl-friendly before. Then again, I never had a single female friend before. Not throughout my entire life.
When I tried to talk to Orihara-san, I was hit with this feeling. I just couldn't help but think it kind of wore me out, I guess?
Girls really are ruthless toward their own gender, huh? Then again, I'll be the one to protect her, so it doesn't really matter.
Oh, come on. Didn't you say less than a minute ago that hanging around her wore you out too?
Shut it. Kazue-chan gives off the same vibes as Taku. Makes me not want to leave him alone if I can help it, you know?
Well, I guess I sort of understand that.
I swear I heard like 5 different sounds play in the darkness there, and I was very confused. The sound of the bell told me that all classes were done for the day. The second it went off, I packed my things, got up from my desk, and left the classroom. Couldn't stand the subtle distance I felt between me and Remy for any second longer. I wanted to get out of the classroom ASAP. Besides, I also had to stop by Manga Darake today. In the end, I hadn't been able to say a single word to Remy. I had several chances to talk to her, but just like this morning, I kept my mouth locked shut the entire time. I might have screwed up by doing that. It would make it even more difficult to talk to her the next time I saw her. I was thinking deeper and deeper into the thick swamp that was trying to figure out how the hell to act around Remy. What?
Big bro.
Just as I was about to leave the school building, I was hit with the voice of a certain irritating person. Nanami came running up to me, holding a trash can in her hands. She must have been in the middle of taking it out. Fortunately for me, the bitch spotted me. I tried to ignore and speed up my way out of here, but just like usual, Nanami refused to let that happen. Ow. The hem of my uniform was pulled tightly from behind.
How many times do I have to tell you not to run away from me?
What do you want?
Don't give me that. Don't you realize I have to chase after you whenever you run away? Kind of annoying.
Okay, then don't chase after me if you don't need something.
You haven't been calling home at all, which is nothing new, but whatever. I've already given up on trying to get you to do it. I doubt you ever will at this point.
Oh, she actually understood me for once. And again, I didn't know how she went, letting my sister know, even though I had no need in the slightest for a 3D one.
So that's why I'm gonna have to keep coming to your room every now and then to check up on you. Should be grateful.
Damn, of course it's come to this. If only I could somehow be freed from this curse of my obnoxious little sister. Hell, even though it never happened, I at least deserve some form of compensation for putting up with her. I thought about that kind of thing daily. Oh, that was it. This was my chance to put my plan from earlier in action. If I was lucky, it might even work as a modest form of revenge. I checked my surroundings, and I started walking toward the courtyard, signaling for Nanami to follow me.
Huh? What is it?
Just come with me.
Why? What's going on?
She was so unbelievably annoying. Was she incapable of following me or something? What a fucking idiot. Nanami, I have an important favor to ask you. Uh-oh. I don't like this. It's gonna be about the phone call.
Favor? From you?
Nanami's eyes went wide.
Wow, that doesn't happen often. You never ask me to do stuff.
Just shut up and follow me.
What you got?
There weren't many people in the courtyard. During lunchtime, the place was always crowded with students eating lunch, but the only people who'd bother coming here after school were the gardening club or whatever.
Okay, so what's the favor?
Nanami lowered the trash can she was carrying to the ground, then gave a big grin as she puffed out her chest.
Oh, but I got one condition. You gotta treat me to McDee's afterward. As long as you do that, I'll do whatever you want. You know I don't really wanna.
The little goddamn thing she did was pissing me off. Can't believe she actually wanted me to pay her back for this. Didn't help that I'd already treated her to McDee's before, too. Forget it. Fine, I'll treat you.
Huh, really? Wow, you're like a totally different person today.
Well, yeah, because I was lying. Saw us for being a liar a little. With that, I handed Nami my cell phone. Then asked her to call the prank caller whose number was stored in my call history, 03X733X991.
You mean you call a number off your history? Who are they?
Someone I know from online. Nami was tilting her head with a suspicious expression on her face, so I quickly told a lie that would seem plausible to her.
So why am I doing it?
You'll know if you call them.
You're not planning something, are you?
God, shut up! All you have to do is shut up and just do what I say. If you can't even do that, then just go home. I have no use for you. And then I want to ask you to do it. I went to snatch back the cell phone, but Nanami pulled her hand back, evading me.
Okay, I'll call them. That's all I have to do, right? Really are selfish, you know.
I have a bad feeling about this. Yeah, you should talk. Choking back my anger, I watched it with bated breath as Nanami dialed the number in question. Nanami, blissfully unaware, put the cell phone to her ear and waited for them to answer. I noticed that on the hand she was holding the cell phone with, she was wearing a yellow bangle. That was the one I'd given her, wasn't it? And again, it was more something she just decided to appropriate rather than me actually giving it to her. She even wore it when she went to school. Did she really like it that much? Even though it was just some cheap-ass bangle I'd gotten for free? Nami really did have no taste at all. Not that I could really speak for anyone else, though. That didn't matter at all right now. Anyway, who was gonna answer the phone? Would it be some scary Dokun piece of garbage? Basically, this scenario I'd just be a prank and had nothing to do with Shogun or Yua.
Hello?
Someone must have picked up, so Nanami called out as she covered the receiver with her hand. Only to raise her eyebrows soon after. She then thrust the phone back in my direction.
Hey, bro.
What?
Don't give me what? It says the number's not in use right now.
What? I snatched the phone from Nanami and put it to my ear. What I heard was...
Number that's been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you've reached this recording in error, please check...
She's right. Guess that meant it really had been a prank, huh? It was a prank where you called a bunch of random numbers simultaneously over a couple days, and when the prank was over, both the number and the phone were destroyed. Or something like that. By the way, it was a pretty large-scale prank. It didn't matter to me either way. I knew now that the mysterious call had been nothing more than a prank, and nothing else mattered anymore.
Okay, what the heck was up with that?
I don't need you anymore.
What?
Leaving Nami standing there, I started to walk off, but it didn't take long for her to chase after me.
Wait just a sec, what was that all about?
Shut up already. You were taking out the trash, weren't you? You left the trash can over there.
Oh, right. But you still haven't told me what's going on.
I'm going home. Without dealing with the Nami, I walked quickly to the school gate with her right on my tail.
Fine, just remember you prostituted me to McDee's. You better not forget.
Like I care.
Hey, did you lie to me?
Maybe. The Nami stepped dead in her tracks, looking pretty upset. But I kept right on moving.
Big jerk.
She yelled out in a voice loud enough to echo throughout the entire area. Fed up with her, I went to turn around and saw her glaring at me with her hands on her hips.
Jerk like you usually get their brains rolled up by cell phone radiation and die.
Shit, thanks to Nami screeching, more eyes were looking our way, even though I made it a point to stand out as little as possible at school. My sister was the most obnoxious shithead of all time. Run! Not giving a damn about what Nami had said, I ran off towards the school gate. It was best to retreat in times like this.
Jerk.
But Nami's voice could still be heard even after I passed her school gate, making me feel completely and utterly drained. Bye-bye. Mata-sama was one of my favorite artists. They were ultra famous, and their fans would always form long lines at every one of their events. I'd heard that the new Blood Tune doujinshi that had come out this summer had sold out in no time flat. I wanted to go too, but all the events where it was being sold out had been way too crowded, to the point where it would have been too much for me. Because of that, I'd found myself tearfully giving up. It'd be naive of me to think Manga Darake would be safe just because they'd had consignment sales. There had indeed been some consignment sales, but they'd been annihilated in practically an instant. On various online auctions, the premium price was set at tens of thousands of yen. All scalpers should die in a fire. Regardless, with all that in mind, I thought it was probably impossible to get my hands on it. However, just yesterday, while I've been surfing that channel, I just so happened to see that the new issue had recently restocked at Manga Darake, which is why I'd headed for it immediately. God, please grant me a miracle. I prayed to the heavens in front of the store, and then I stormed inside. I scanned the doujinshi section with my eyes as wide as dinner plates. I went back and forth down the aisle, searching over and over again to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I couldn't find it. No, was it already sold out? I casually observed the cashier. It was a girl. Wasn't very cute, but she did seem friendly. Never even once used the hyper-advanced technique known as asking the clerk about whether or not they had a certain item in stock. The reason, of course, was that I didn't have the courage to do so. And not only that, but the title of Higashi Matasama's new book was Seroton Cosplayer Gone Wild, so yeah, asking about it was completely and utterly impossible. Excuse me, miss, but do you have a copy of Higashi Matasama's Seroton Cosplayer Gone Wild? I asked a female clerk something like that. I no doubt be labeled as a pervert, and I knew that for a fact, thank you very much. And yeah, and I simply gave up on asking the clerk anything and exited the store dejectedly. Guess I'll go home. Or maybe I should go to that cafe. Flipping between the two as I walked, a sword I had seen before flashed past the edge of my vision. The sword was a distinctive two-pronged blade, the one that girl B, the girl who called herself Sana, had been carrying around the city. In the crowded center guy, the tip of the sword jutted above the heads of people walking down the street. As it got closer to me, I hurriedly took refuge in a nearby arcade. When I peered out from the shadows, it didn't take long for Sana herself to appear, the sword resting on her shoulder. Yep, there she is again. Wearing an expression that was just as terrifying as ever, she walked quickly toward the station. She didn't seem to have noticed me. But even then, after having experienced a humiliation play that was lugging around a sword just like hers, the bold way that Sena walked around without a care in the world impressed me. Was she not embarrassed to hold a huge sword like that? I mean, she had to have been questioned by a police officer at least once. No way she hadn't. As I pondered that, Sena's figure got further and further away. Where do they sell badass D-swords like the one she has, I wonder? The one I got hold of didn't glow, nor did it have a badass shape, so I wasn't exactly satisfied with that. In comparison to the sword Sena was carrying, mine was far less impressive in terms of design. The entire reason behind me getting a D-sword was to use it as a protective charm. Back at the Scramble Crossing, I'd been trembling in fear and wished for something I could rely on. If Dreamy had shown up, I'd become slightly more stable, but the situation surrounding me was not getting any better. I still had a lot of enemies, such as Shogun, Yua, etc. That was the reason why I wanted to get my hands on a D-sword that looked way stronger than the one I actually had. Of course, there was also the collector's spirit found in every otaku. As if drawn to Sena's sword, I've been staggering over toward Scramble Crossing without realizing it. Oh god, I bit my lip. I didn't want to be out in front of the station. I would reluctantly go to the center guy or school or whatever because I had things I had to do there, but if I could help it, I preferred not going anywhere near them. Having a crowd of total strangers standing around me made me feel as if any escape route had been stolen away, and just the illusion of that made it hard to breathe. Unsurprisingly, the area in front of the station was infested with people. I was starting to feel more and more sick, so I opted to look down at the ground, to try and hold back the nausea a bit. Because of that, the next time I looked up, I realized I'd lost sight of the conspicuous sword. It looked like she'd been walking toward the Hachiko statue, but... Right then, the light of a Scramble Crossing turned green. A sea of people rushed into the intersection from various directions. It became pretty chaotic. A whole host of people walking every which way, and they did it all without even so much as bumping into each other. When I saw something like that, I realized how unrealistic the empty Scramble Crossing I'd seen in my delusion yard day really was. There probably wasn't even a single second in the entire year where there were no people in this place. What was I even trying to accomplish by chasing after Sena in the first place? I hadn't even been able to ask the friendly Manga Darake employee whether they had something in stock, so how exactly was I supposed to talk to someone who looked unfriendly and scary looking like Sena? Besides, she might have been my enemy. I didn't know what she'd do to me if I carelessly followed her around without any form of protection. What was wrong with me? I should just go home. I finally decided on that, but right when I was about to turn around... What? I noticed a white chain lying down in the street. I couldn't see the end of it because it was concealed by the legs of various pedestrians, but it seemed to be stretching from where I was standing all the way to the other side of the Scramble Crossing. The hell? It was a ridiculously long chain. Was it for construction or something? There was no evidence of construction going on anywhere. I couldn't believe they left a chain lying around like this. Was this the location they were shooting at for some movie or TV show? No, they wouldn't be filming at a time as crowded as this. Okay, then did someone throw it away? A chain this long? It'd already be hard enough to just bring it this far out. Regardless, I was definitely going to get in the way of people and cars. Tilting my head in confusion, I examined my surroundings to see how people around me were reacting to it. I thought it would be dangerous if somebody caught their leg on it, but not a single person was paying attention to it. Could we only see it? I rubbed my eyes and tried to look at it one more time, thinking that it might be an optical illusion or something, but the chain was still there. I didn't have the courage to touch it, though. It creeped me out too much. It wasn't a cheap-looking plastic one. It was an extremely sturdy-looking iron chain. How long had this thing been left sitting here? If these were normal circumstances, I'd think it was some kind of trap. After which, I would have run away in fear, suspecting that something terrifying might have been waiting for me. Follow it? For now, for whatever reason, I couldn't help but wonder where the chain led. My mind was overtaken by a compulsive obsession that told me I had to follow this chain. Okay. I crossed the scramble crossing before the light turned red, bumping into several pedestrians as I did. At the end of the continuous chain was an old dark green train car that was sitting next to the Hachiko statue. The wheels had been removed, so it was closer to a monument or an exhibit rather than a functional train car. You were supposed to be able to enter it freely, too. The white chain was extending from the open door to the inside of the train. There were tons of people parked in front of Hachiko, but not one was paying any attention to the chain. They didn't show any signs that they were even aware of it. As well as that, there were no signs of any people on the train at all. With a gulp, I peered inside the train car. Uh-oh. In that moment, I realized it was a trap. I couldn't believe it myself, which was why I hadn't suspected it at all before. The car appeared to be empty, but there was a figure of a single person inside. Aoi Sena was sitting cross-legged on a burgundy train seat. Her sharp gaze was fixed firmly on me. For some reason, she was holding a light blue popsicle in her hand. That was a Crunchy-kun, right? Forget it, I could care less about Crunchy-kuns right now. More importantly, the gigantic D-sword she had been carrying was mysteriously nowhere to be found. I wonder where she had even managed to put that thing with how huge it was and all. No. In place of the sword was a white chain coiling around one of her legs. Which reminded me that, back when I first met her in Senergai, she had said something about finding her in a train car in front of the station. This must have been what she meant. Was she the one who put this chain here? Could she really have been lugging around such a long chain? It looked like it weighed over 10 kilograms, and not only that, but it had to have been over 50 meters long. I had no idea what was up with this girl. She was entirely unknown to me. She wasn't normal. Could she be Shogun? Feeling scared now, I moved to run away without saying anything. Only for a sharp voice to strike me right then. Come in. I automatically stopped dead in my tracks. Blatant, commanding tone. One that acted as if the train belonged to them. Of course, I had no intention of going inside. I didn't know who she was. I was scared of her. I was awful at talking to 3D women when I was alone with them. I didn't want anything to do with her. I told you to come in. Sena's attitude told me that I wasn't allowed to talk back. She hadn't moved a muscle, but I know that what she'd do if I showed even the slightest hint of trying to escape. Maybe she was actually a Dokyun, one that would beat someone up without hesitation. Talk about scary. If I showed her even the slightest hint of submissiveness, she'd walk all over me. I had to deal with Dokyun several times up until now. Whenever that happened, the best thing to do was just to run away. It didn't matter if you obeyed them or not, you get hurt after they were done with you no matter what you did, so the best option was just to run away. See if I could find an opening. Ow! Suddenly, something from behind pushed me hard. Caught off guard, I was unable to brace my legs, and I tumbled clumsily to the ground. Stunned, I looked back toward the entrance to see who the hell had pushed me. There were a lot of people outside the train waiting around for appointments and whatnot, but I couldn't pinpoint which one of them was the culprit. Maybe they had already run away. But why had they felt the need to shove me in? Why would someone do something like that? I must have hit my knee when I fallen down, as it hurt a little bit. Avoiding eye contact with Sena, I staggered back to my feet. I suddenly realized the bundle of chain that had been at Sena's feet just a moment ago had disappeared without a trace. I thought she'd move it somewhere, but there had been no sound to indicate that, and she was still sitting on the same seat she'd been sitting on the entire time. Even if she had moved it, where the hell had she moved it to? I didn't see it anywhere on the train. Where was the error? Sena, completely unconcerned about how lost I was, asked me something unintelligible yet again. You told me, so I'm assuming you found one. As I shook my head left and right in confusion, Sena's expression became increasingly stern. She then eventually looked away from me, let out a small sigh, then took a bite of her popsicle. Free from her sharp gaze, I nearly sank down to the floor once again. Talk about looks I could kill. I would have sat down on one of the seats if I could have, but when I realized that she might have said something to me if I did, I couldn't bring myself to. I knew you were following me. You saw the error I created, didn't you? What are you talking about? The chain. The white chain. So that was you that made that? What? If that was what she meant, then yeah, I'd seen it. I'd followed the weird thing all the way here, after all. But I don't know where it is. It disappeared. I made it disappear. It was my delusion, after all. I'm sorry? Delusion? What was she talking about? Then what about the sword? You have one, don't you? Excuse me? No, I don't have one. How could I? This wasn't going well. I could barely get a word out. More importantly, who are you? Seems like you can see. Sina glanced at me, then jerked her chin toward the window. What do you see outside this window? People. Lots of people. It felt like there were even more people than before. I felt like I was going to get a headache just from looking at them. There were people with their heads glued to their cell phones, people smiling over phone calls, people standing and staring at the stream of people. Practically everything I saw out the window was people standing around waiting for other people. I mean, if there were so many people here, why hadn't anyone come into the train since I had gone on? Do you believe that there's a perfect world out there? What? There isn't. There can't be. Errors will always exist. Because everything, people included, is an electronic device. What? What kind of chuny plotline was that? Jokes aside, I also thought about similar things pretty often. And I wasn't trying to say that chuny plotlines were bad or anything. After all, the world was overflowing with books, movies, and anime that were nothing but chuny insanity. Why was it that a writer or a movie director or whoever else could come up with chuny plotlines like that, and it was all well and good, but when amateurs like me did it, everyone made fun of us. The world's greats had all been chunibyos. Just think about it. The Wright brothers had genuinely thought they could fly through the sky 100 years ago. Napoleon had boasted that the word impossible is not in my dictionary. That was why chunibyos weren't something to be mocked. It was the path that all the world's greats had taken. But my question was, why had this girl suddenly start spouting all this chuny shit at me? It isn't what you're seeing. It's what's being shown to you. People acquire information from outside the body by utilizing the 5 senses, but about 80% of the information we receive comes from sight. The images obtained from the sight are converted into impulses, signals that are then sent to the brain via the optic nerve. Just like a telephone, I thought to myself absent-mindedly. A telephone converted your voice into electrical signals, and then sent that information to a distant location. What? A telephone, huh? You could say it's similar to that. How did you... Has she just read my mind? No, there's no way. Had I been mumbling to myself without realizing again? Do you know what VR technology is? Yeah? What, virtual reality? Of course, I didn't actually answer her aloud. Visual rebuilding. That is not what I said. Huh. I was wrong. I'd never heard of that. It's a technology currently being researched in the field of psychophysiology in America. With this technology, even those who have been blind from birth will be able to accurately view anything that the eyes can naturally perceive. This is made possible by using video equipment such as video cameras. Wow. What? That look on your face tells me you're wondering how exactly. The way it works is simple. Images provided by the video camera and the nerve impulses traveling through the brain are both essentially electrical signals. In short, all it's needed for the brain to interpret those images is technology that convert the signals into nerve impulses. There have already been successful tests to the point where the research team behind it have already obtained a patent for it. It was patented? Seriously? I thought that was a fairly hardcore delusion with an impressive amount of depth and detail behind it, but claiming there was a full-on patent was taking it way too far. Something can be inferred from that patent. Sana, who had been looking out the window the whole time, turned to face me. She slowly crossed her legs. If it's possible to convert specific information into nerve impulses,
Wouldn't it be possible to control all 5 of the senses and even the free will of the people itself?
I mean... I don't know? Even though it was right in front of Shibuya Station, it was strangely quiet on the train. It felt as if it had been deprived of sound itself. It was obviously an illusion, but I couldn't help but remember the illusion I'd had several days ago of a deserted Shibuya. As I thought about it, I couldn't take my eyes off the crowd moving outside the window. Like I said before, people are electronic devices. And I don't mean just the brain either. The entire body has nerves with electricity running through them. In other words, even our bodies and actions can be controlled as well. Theoretically, that is. So you're saying we're being controlled? This girl... I was taken aback. This girl was even more delusional than both me and you combined. What she was saying sounded logical, but it was clearly a total pipe dream. In fact, the research team that acquired the pen is shifting their research in that very direction. The contents were so dangerous that the President of the United States issued a memorandum to try and prevent any further research. How much of what she was saying was actually true? It said, no agency shall conduct or support classified human research without having proposed and promulgated the common rule. Anna looked downward and clasped her hands, resting on her knees tightly. The world is full of nothing but corrupt factions. Factions that have no regard for morality and will sacrifice others without a second thought for their own personal gain. It makes me sick. After she finished voicing her disgust, she stuck the last chunk of her nearly melted crunchy kun in her mouth, and suddenly stood up. I reflexively started to shrink back, only to run into the wall behind me. Ignorance is a sin. People claim ignorance is bliss, but that's simply naive. Not the world. Study its mechanisms. This world is imperfect. She was coming toward me. Thinking she might hit me, I tried to shield my face with my arm, but in the end, she slipped right past me without doing anything. Is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Without looking at me, she murmured that as we passed each other, and then... she promptly exited the train by herself. I stared out the window at Sena as she walked away. Without looking back at me even once, she quickly disappeared into the sea of people. In the end, I had absolutely no clue as to what she'd been trying to tell me. People can be controlled. What is happening? The only thing I took from it was that Sena despised the world. Typical Chunibyo. From my point of view, though, it sucked ass to have her shoot her poisonous Denpa bullshit at me without even letting me get a word in. Her tone of voice alone made me feel like I was being lectured. The way she talked was often a moe characteristic when it came to 2D, but in reality it only served to make her feel more like a total dokyun. The fact she hadn't attacked me was a relief. A surprise considering that for some reason she always gave off the aura that she was just raring to slap anyone and everyone. I wanted to take a breather after that, so I sat down in the seat where Sena had been sitting before. Immediately following that, a dokyun-looking couple suddenly came into the car. After that, a trio of people that were obviously dokyun Kogyarus, then an older middle-aged man, and then a young businessman wearing a suit. Now people are actually entering. What? The train car had become claustrophobic in the blink of an eye. Before Sena had left, no one had even tried to enter the car, so where the hell had they all come from? The voices of the dokyun couple and the Kogyarus were way too loud, so I quickly got out of there while telling them all to go to hell in my head. What is going on? Oh, click. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting tangled up with an IRL Chuni chick. Okay, asshole, this time you have pissed me off. Seriously, Lord Nightheart, you're always saying shit like, oh, I don't give a fuck about 3D, but you've been getting real nice and close with a bunch of 3D girls recently, have you? You even said earlier that one of them broke into your house. I don't care who you asked, that's straight out of an Hiroge. You plunged straight into your once-in-a-lifetime chance to be popular. Alright, listen well. I'll admit that I have indeed amassed quite the number of opportunities to speak with cute females. However, Every single IRL one is a fucking mental case. You try being on the receiving end of their brain-melting Denpa attacks. The sheer scale of schizo, it's legitimately horrifying.
Okay, I truly am sorry. I sorry. I sorry.
Insanity, Garu. I know all these words, so I don't feel like it's important.
I truly am sorry. Don't worry about it. Don't worry.
Even after I'd gone back home, I'd still been somewhat interested in what Sana had told me. Of course, I didn't think what she said was true, but I was pretty sure that I'd be able to confirm it for myself if I did a little bit of research into the patent and memorandum specifically. So with Grimm's help, I started searching the internet. I was able to get one of Grimm's friends who lived in America to help me out as well. But even with all that help, I still didn't think we were going to find anything. In this day and age, you couldn't trust anyone without a source. That's a nice argument, Senator. How about you back it up with a source? Yo, I just got a message from Shiho. Shiho was a friend of Grimm that I had mentioned earlier. He lived in America and spoke fluent English. Let me guess, BS, right? That stupid fucking mental case. Should have just been making a fool out of me because she didn't think I could understand English. Don't underestimate the power of the internet. Consider yourself pwned. It exists, apparently. What? Huh? It exists? What did? The guy went out of the way to tell it for us. Anyway, let me up it. Is this just more bait? Man, you don't trust me at all, do you, Mao? Although that's probably my fault for being an ass most of the time, lol. Okay, then how about I invite Shiho instead? Could it actually be real? I've been tricked by Grimm several times in the past. If I trusted him like I usually did, he'd hit me with something so bad that it'd make my brain blue screen. He was saying that he was going to invite Shiho, and that he even had a source for us. Fine. If this is just you baiting me again, I'll kick you out of the guild. Okay, just trust me just this once. He was being surprisingly confident. Maybe it really was okay to trust him this time. Damn it, I'm such an easy target. Slightly nervous, I squinted my eyes halfway shut to protect myself from seeing anything too quickly or too clearly. And then I clicked the link. What is this? I need a closer view of this. It was a document written in English with a bunch of strange diagrams on the lower half. Part of it looked like a human face. Headline read, "A United States patent." I knew that much at least. In other words, this was an actual US patent. Do you know what VR technology is? There have already been successful tests to the point where the research team behind it have already obtained a patent for it. It was real. I then went to open one of the two text files that had become bundled with it. One of them had a series of news articles that seemed to mention the patent, all of which were translated into Japanese. One said that the Psychophysiology Research Laboratory of America's Victor Condria Hang on, Victor Condria? Ain't that the same one that Karisu was part of back in Steins Gate? That's fascinating if so. Was currently researching a groundbreaking invention known as VR, visual rebuilding. As the goal of the research was primarily for healthcare, it had been gaining the attention of visually impaired people from all over the world. It was groundbreaking technology that enabled people who were blind from birth to see the scenery in front of them through video cameras and other imaging devices. To put it simply, this was done by converting signals, the ones that composed the image data that the video camera received, into the only signal the brain could recognize, electrical signals known as nerve impulses. These are then transported to the brain via the optic nerve. There had already been successful tests and the patent had already been registered. And it was actually approved. Interesting. So does that mean what Sana had said wasn't some chuny delusion? I gulped, then I went to open the other text file. I am reading. Presidential documents, a memorandum of March 27th, 1997, strengthened protections for human subjects of classified research. The agency shall jointly propose to prohibit waiver of informed consent for classified research, Parvin said. Beginning 1 year after the date of this memorandum, no agency shall conduct or support classified human research without having proposed and promulgated the common rule, said another. The document was then signed at the Bonn by William J. Clinton and closed with the White House, Washington, March 27, 1997. A memorandum from the President of the United States. It kind of sounded like the premise to a movie or something, so I never would have thought it was actually real. I went to check the original document via the URL. Even I could read English for the most part. Despite how I might have looked, I was a lot smarter than those dokuns that went to school every day. The actual cons written in the document were the same as the translate text. Which means Santa's words echoed in the back of my mind. If it's possible to convert specific information to nerve impulses, wouldn't it be possible to control all 5 of the senses and even the free will of people itself? That's a terrifying thought. You could completely change what a person is like sensing. You could put them in a completely different world that way. Make them see they're in a different area. Make them smell as if something bad is something good. Make them hear what they want to hear. Make them touch something that feels pleasant, but in reality would hurt. And you could even have them taste things that... You could completely delude a person into a different reality. If you controlled someone and 5 senses, you could make them believe in an entirely different world. It's starting to get somewhat difficult to understand at this point. But with what Sena had told me, combined with the sources we found online that backed her up, it all sent chills down my spine. Is Takumi being controlled then? Or is somebody else being controlled? Or other people? Is Takumi the one who's seeing things differently from everyone else for some reason? Or is everyone else seeing something different? Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about the whole, like, certain things not matching up. The way that Rimi acts, the way that there seem to be 2 different variants of some of the new gen crimes. Is it that Takumi is seeing a different version from everyone else? Or is everyone else being manipulated into seeing something completely different? You can't tell what's real anymore. It's impossible to tell what's real anymore. I had a feeling that something terrible was lurking within. But what confused me the most was what Santa's true intentions were in telling me all this. Did it have anything to do with me? The part about being able to control people's free will definitely wasn't something I could dismiss as somebody else's problem. Because there was a possibility that I was a sleepwalker. On the day of the 3rd New Gen incident, the crucifixion, I had been told that I'd been posting in the chat room as Shogun. Apparently, I posted from @Cafe too, but I had no memory of any of it. What's real anymore? That's terrifying. You can't tell what's real anymore. What's real? Shogun? Is Takumi being Shogun and Nightheart true? Or is Shogun some old kid? Or is Shogun Yua? Or is Rimi a killer or just a normal student? What happened to the memories that Takumi had? Does Rimi know she's a killer? What if Rimi's being controlled suddenly? What if she did kill before, but then suddenly someone's controlling her senses and completely changing her? Not only that, but I had absolutely no memory from Remy too. We've been classmates for over a year, and we had to have been close enough to hang out on multiple occasions, yet I had no memory of any of it. Maybe I had done all those things while I was being manipulated by some other being. Besides, I was terrible at talking to 3D girls to begin with, so there's no way I would be close to a cute girl like Remy normally. No, I was thinking too hard about this. At the very least, I knew that the chat thing was just one of Yua's delusions. Shogun was a separate entity for me. He was trying to entrap me, and it didn't go beyond that. This was true regardless of whether or not he had actually been the old man in the wheelchair that appeared in front of 107. Maybe Sana too was one of the Shogun's underlings. Maybe she was just trying to deceive me. Don't just blindly accept everything without questioning it. Don't trust a suspicious girl that you don't actually know. Sana and Yua were both of the same breed. That's how it should go, right, Seraton? Oh, Yua. The only sound present in the room was the distinct clacking of a keyboard. Kusunoki Yua's thin, supple fingers moved as if they were dancing, her gaze fixed on the monitor all the while. Her touch typing was effortless, and she made next to no typos. She was writing an email, a very long one at that. Yua had already been writing for almost half an hour, endlessly deliberating over the contents of the email and making frequent revisions as she continued to type. Suddenly, her fingers stopped moving. With a small pained sigh, she abruptly pressed down and held down on the backspace key. The cursor was lit up on the monitor. Began scrolling leftward at a high speed. All the long sentences she had written so far disappeared nearly instantaneously as the cursor traveled along the screen. When all the contents had been erased, Yua took hold of the Garo Froggy stuffed animal lying on her bed, then hugged it tightly to her chest. It was a habit that Yua had developed recently. If she did not hug something in this way, she would be faced with unbearable anxiety. Burying her chin in the stuffed animal, Yua sighed once again and shook her head softly. Please give me the courage to do this. Murmuring softly to no one in particular, Yua's expression stiffened. With the stuffed animal resting on her lap, she returned to her hands to the keyboard. Within the monitors, each letter she typed in a fluid manner was quickly displayed in sequence. Compared to the one she had erased just moments before, this email was far more short and simple. It only served to provide the bare necessities of what she needed to convey. When she finished writing, Yua hesitated for a moment, and then she resolutely clicked on the send icon. I sent it. Before she could stop it from going through, the email had already been sent in the blink of an eye. Yua squeezed the Garo Froggy sitting on her lap tightly and continued to stare at the monitor in front of her for over an hour. Although she had not been expecting one, there was no sign of a reply at all. We're back here. There I was, in my beloved room 37. As I sank down into the recliner, I started chewing on my nails in an attempt to distract myself from my irritation. There was a reason why I'd come to At Cafe 2 days in a row, yesterday and yet today. 2 nights ago, after Grim and Shiho had found out that what Senna had said was true, I received an email from Yua. In it, she insolently said that she wanted to talk to me one more time. Fuck off, I wanted to tell her. What the hell did she mean she wanted to talk after deceiving me like that? I had nothing to say to her. Even if I did, she'd probably come up with some new fancy way to trap me when I went to see her. As if I could risk that. It was true that I wasn't used to talking to girls. That's why I'd been so happy back when Yua was hitting on me. And yet the harlot had been toying with me behind my back. And on top of that, she'd come up with all those insane delusions. Even I had delusions, sure, but I never bothered anyone else with them. That girl assaulted me with her schizo BS and that treated me like I was the new gen culprit. I can never forget what she'd done to me. Never. So I'd ignored her email. But there had still been one thing that concerned me. In her email, she said she was going to come to my base, and I knew for a fact that she knew my address. That was why I decided to take refuge in that cafe, despite it not being a school day. If I had the option, I would have brought my D-sword as a protective charm, but unlike Santa, I didn't have the courage to walk down Center Guy with that. At any rate, spending almost half a day in an internet cafe was fairly tiring. The recliners were comfortable and it was equipped with showers, but I still couldn't fully relax like I could at my base. And the biggest problem of all, Seraton wasn't there. After 2 days spent holed up in the cafe, I realized just how much the mere presence of Seraton helped. I wanted to hurry up and get back to my base as soon as possible. But going back late at night would mean the date would change. And by that time, the last train would already be gone. I feared that Yua would most likely be waiting for me wouldn't be waiting for me anymore by then. I had to stick around for another 4 hours before the clock would strike midnight. I'm sure our time would go by a lot faster if I played ESO. I moved my gaze over to the PC monitor. My second character, Lisa-Lot, was standing there aimlessly, not moving. Is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Tina's words came to mind. More than half of what she'd said was true. The only thing I couldn't find a source for was the part where she was talking about controlling even people's wills and bodies. Maybe that part was just a delusion of hers. Mixing in just a few lies with this truth was a clever and effective way to scare people, especially with threats. Even though my reasonable side knew all that, I couldn't help but feel scared as I thought about all the strange, inexplicable phenomena that had been plaguing me over the past few weeks. In a daze, I looked at Lisa-Lot on the screen. Lisa-Lot, is the scenery in your eyes perceived truly real? Keeping my voice low to avoid being overheard, I whispered that absent-mindedly. I thought about something like this several times in the past. The world that I was looking at right now, Baselar, was the world that Lisa-Lot lived in. It might have been real for her, but from my perspective, it was fake. Which meant that the world that I lived in was seen as fake from the point of view of the person controlling me.
Hi. I'm right here.
However, just as Lisa-Lot couldn't perceive me as a higher being, I also couldn't perceive the person controlling me as a higher being. I wonder if Lisa-Lot was thinking the same things that I was thinking. At the very least, I couldn't move her on her own. I had to interfere in order for her to move. So what about me? Maybe I too couldn't get up from this recliner without the interference of the person controlling me. To test this, I tried to stand up. I did it with ease. After that, I tried sitting down. It took no effort. But this sequence of events, was it really of my own volition? Or was it the result of someone's interference? I had no way of knowing. I heard the sound of the partition doors to the private room being opened behind me, and at the same time I felt someone come in. Startled, I turned around. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Kusunoki Yua. So terrified I was about to scream. Yua's hand quickly covered my mouth. Her hand was hot, and the scent of Yua's sweat infiltrated my nose. Be quiet. Don't make a sound. Promise not to make a sound. Will you promise me? You better not say otherwise. Promise me. You'll do it, won't you? Do it. Please. Don't like it. In the small private room, the only way out was blocked by Yua. The next thing I knew, my shoulders were being held down with such incredible force, I couldn't even get up from my seat. Yua's cold gaze pierced through me at point-blank range. I couldn't help but look away, and my eyes fell on the 3 Garo froggies attached to the bag that she was carrying on her shoulder. Alright? Don't make a sound. What do I do? What should I do? I tried desperately to think of a way out of the situation, but it was no use. I couldn't think clearly. She had taken me completely by surprise. My mind had gone completely blank. I went to your house yesterday, but you weren't there. Even so, I waited there. Until late at night. But I understand how you feel. You're trying to avoid me. I really do. Beseech you, Shijo-kun. No death and just stay away from me. Nothing to say to any of Shogun's underlings. Anyone who traps a weak person like me is a demon. You looked down once, It looks like she was hesitating to say something. Then, after a moment, she very clearly said a single phrase. Whose eyes are those eyes? You know it, don't you? You can't pretend otherwise. It was a dying message from the vampire case. It's been all over the internet. It's a phrase that's incredibly popular throughout Shibuya. But even before it was popular, I knew about it. There was a person using that phrase even before the vampire. Shogun. I showed you it before, didn't I? The chat log between Nightheart and Shogun. That was where Shogun had written it. Whose eyes are those eyes? Which means you had inched her face closer and closer to mine. Her tone of voice was calm, but her eyes shining behind the glasses were ice cold. She's staring at me. I looked away. Shogun, it's you. In other words what? Please, Nishijo-kun. Please. That's when I noticed. Yua's hands were trembling. Was it that my hands were shaking so much it made it look like hers were too? While I pondered that, something unbelievable came out of her mouth. Don't kill anyone anymore. What? You aren't even aware of it, aren't you? I understand that too. After all, you have no way of knowing Nishijo-kun. Knowing what? Yua's eyes shone with sorrow. Even though she'd been staring at me intently until now, she suddenly cast her eyes downward. DID. Multiple personalities. I had multiple personalities? At first, I fully intended on turning you over to the police. How confused I was, Yua continued to talk. And if I couldn't do that, I thought I'd try this method instead. But when I investigated you, I found that you were suffering just as much as I was. The eyes behind Yua's glasses once again took hold of me. They pleaded with me. No matter how hard I tried to see it as something else, I couldn't see her as anything other than genuinely worried about me. And that horrified me. I want to help you. This girl's solutions were getting out of control. What she was saying was totally insane. Or was it? Was it really insane? So let's go to the hospital. We'll do it together. I didn't know myself. I didn't truly know myself. I understand myself. I had posted in a chat room under the handle Shogun without knowing it. Even though I had no memory of it, I had become friends with a girl named Rimi. It wasn't just me sleepwalking. And it wasn't just some higher being controlling me. Maybe the person controlling me from inside my head literally was inside my head. I wasn't me. I wasn't me. I was a different personality. I had multiple personalities. My head hurt. Throbbing, stabbing pain ripped through it. It wasn't possible. The entire thing was bullshit. Who would ever believe that? It too was yet another one of Yua's delusions. She was my enemy. She was impeding my way of life. Trying to trap me. Trying to destroy my mind. And the hospital itself was under Shogun's reign. The only person I trusted, Dr. Takashino, had disappeared in such a sudden, inexplicable manner. Shogun must have made him disappear. And if I did what Yua said, he'd make me disappear too. I don't believe her. It's not true. It's not true, 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 it's not true. I was stuck in my own head. Shoved you off with every ounce of strength I could muster. Slamming into the wind sliding door behind her. You slumped down to the floor with a grimace. Finally freed from Yua's grasp, I grabbed my bag, stepped over Yua's body, and made for the exit. Wait! still crumpled on the floor. Yua grabbed my ankle. Her hair was disheveled, and her glasses were falling off her face. She made no effort to fix them. Seeing her clinging so desperately to me terrified me so much. A pathetic scream escaped my mouth. She was my enemy. One of Shogun's underlings. I won't be deceived. I won't be deceived by you ever again. Don't touch me! I shouted as loud as I could, and Yua quickly let go of me. In that window, I bolted out of the room. I tore a 5,000 yen bill out from my wallet and slammed it on the counter in front of the dumbfounded receptionist. And then, without getting my change, I burst onto the elevator leading outside. I nearly tumbled out of the elevator as I burst outside. The sun was already setting. I examined my surroundings. There were people everywhere. Run. It doesn't matter where, just run. My base wasn't safe. She was following me. I had no idea where to even go, but I started running anyway. Thinking that Yua might get off another elevator at any moment now. She might threaten me again with that ice-cold voice of hers. I didn't want to stay there for even a second longer. I looked behind me over and over again, but I kept on running regardless of what I saw. Pedestrians were all in the way. I bumped into a businessman and a Dokun-esque high school girl. When that happened, I was showered with curses. I still didn't stop. I just kept running. It hurt to breathe. I picked up some random-ass road without thinking, and I still had no idea where I was running. I stopped to catch my breath. I checked the scenery around where I was standing. It was in front of Mariuchi, which meant I could take shelter in Miyashita Park. I would take a quick break there, and then I would run somewhere farther away. If I went to Yoyogi Park, there would be plenty of places to hide, so I could spend the night there. I couldn't help but wonder what was behind me. I didn't see any signs of Yua. However, I wouldn't be surprised if she appeared in front of me at any second now, complete with the most terrifying, demonic expression I'd ever encountered. My instinct screamed at me. Run. You need to run. The Great King of Terror has blank this city. I feel like we keep seeing I feel like we keep seeing this one guy with a sign every so often. And the sign says something different every time, I feel. The Great King of Terror has blank this city. Changed? Exhausted, I weakly sat down on the pavement of the Miyashita Park overpass. I'd run way too much. My throat was dying. I wanted to drink a nice, ice-cold cola. I didn't see any vending machines nearby. Maybe I was okay now that I'd come this far. No, I couldn't be careless. I still had to be fully aware of my surroundings. There should be only a few people in Miyashita Park at night. Or at least, that was what I expected, but much to my surprise, that wasn't the case. There was a businessman walking briskly through the park, likely using it as a shortcut. An older man sitting on a bench messing with a cell phone. Several homeless people sitting around absent-mindedly, and lastly, a person wearing blue talking to one of them. A police officer. Uh-oh. The police. I gulped audibly. I remembered that I'd been questioned by a pair of detectives a while ago. I hadn't heard a single thing from them since. They said they were going to guard the area surrounding my base, but there was no sign of them following through on it. Although, according to Misumi-kun, they'd apparently come to investigate Suime. Those two detectives. What were their names again? I couldn't remember. I told them both about the truth of what I witnessed at the scene of the crucifixion. In hindsight, I couldn't help but think that they'd clearly been looking at me with suspicion as I did. Or as I thought that, the policeman who'd been talking to the homeless man glanced at me. Or at least, that was how it felt. Oh no. You're overthinking it, I thought to myself. I still tried to follow the police officer's movements closely. But maybe I was being too obvious, because the cop looked over once again, and it was clearly directed at me this time. I was the first one to look down. I doubted that I could survive a staring contest against a cop. Had he looked at me for a reason? Or had he just looked at me because I had looked at him? Which was it? I didn't know. It could have been either one of those reasons. After waiting a few moments, I looked up and glanced at the officer once again. The cop was still looking at me, so I hurriedly turned my head away in a panic. This is bad. I was acting way too suspicious. With you already hunting me down, I couldn't afford to have the police coming after me too. I need to get out of this somehow. I wiped a cold sweat from my forehead. Still sitting down, I took a textbook out from my bag, pretended to start reading it, then I casually looked over to see what the policeman was doing. The police officer brought a black object, likely a police radio, to his mouth. Was he reporting something? From where I was sitting, the sound of cars passing by on the street below me was so loud I couldn't hear his voice at all. This couldn't have gone worse. That was what I felt like. Maybe I should get out of here, I thought to myself, but it was already too late for that. If I did anything careless, it would be suicide. If you pretended to read a book, you would have to keep up that pretense for a certain amount of time or else you'd look suspicious. I had to keep up the act until the cops stopped looking at me. Or as I thought that. I realized that a figure who previously looked like they were heading for the park was instead walking straight toward the policeman. On looking at them with the corner of my eyes shot open. Yua. She couldn't possibly have come at a worse time. Cold sweat seeped not only from my forehead, but my entire body. This was bad. This was really, really bad. It didn't look like Yua had noticed me yet, so I prayed that she would just walk away without doing so. But my prayers went unanswered. After all, the policeman's gaze was still trained on me. It was only natural that Yua, who had ran up to the cop and said something to him, would follow his gaze and lock onto me. I clicked my tongue, tucked my textbook back to my bag, then partially got up. I took a position that would allow me to bolt at any time. You and the policeman exchanged a few words, and then they both looked at me. Look at me. You then blatantly pointed at me. She was explaining something to the cop. You bitch. You gotta be kidding. You gotta be fucking kidding. I felt like it was enough to make even a level-headed person like myself completely snap. She was reporting me to the police. Not only that, she was telling him that nonsensical delusion bullshit that she pulled out of her goddamn ass. The idea that I was the new gen killer. It may be satisfactory to you, but just put yourself in my shoes. How would you feel if you got falsely accused? My cries obviously had no way of reaching her. The policeman who had listened to Yua's story began to approach me, his shoulders squared. I stood up. Shit. I was trapped. She was going to ruin my life. What do I do? What should I do? Should I just tell the policeman the truth? That it was all a delusion she came up with? I didn't do anything. I was a model citizen. There was no way. That would never work. In this day and age, when given the choice between an otaku freak like me and a wholesome high school girl like Yua, it was fairly obvious who the cops were more likely to believe. There was no way they'd ever take anything I had to say seriously. That's why I had to run away right this instant. The second I thought that, I turned on my heel and broke into a sprint. I crossed the overpass leading toward the stairs to Meiji Dori. When I got there, I looked behind me and saw a policeman sprinting after me. And not only that, but strangely enough, the man sitting on the bench and even one of the homeless people were right behind him. You gotta be kidding me. Had you had the police on her side this entire time? Had Miyashita Park been full of undercover detectives the entire time? I had no idea what to do anymore. I'd been completely caught off guard. It was so incredibly unreasonable that I felt like I was about to cry. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't done anything at all. The police were being jerked around by her. This was insane. Wiping away my tears, I rushed down the stairs. I ran down Meiji Dori, heading straight toward the station without looking at anyone or anything. I passed under a pedestrian overpass and ran up the stairs leading to it. There were people everywhere. All of them were blocking my path. It felt as if each and every one of them were deliberately getting in my way, like they all had some form of malicious intent. Everyone looked like they could be cops. I was this close to completely panicking. I looked behind me and saw someone sprinting after me. I caught a glimpse of a person cutting through the crowd just like I was. It was one of the people I'd seen in the park. I didn't know who it was. It didn't matter. They were following me regardless. I was horrified. If I got caught, my life would be over. I'd be falsely accused of a crime I didn't commit, sentenced to death, locked up in a high-security prison for decades and decades, and then after I finished enduring that living hell, I would be finally told, alrighty then, your number's up. Time for you to die. I didn't want that.
I wouldn't be able to handle that. I didn't want to live like that. Even if I somehow managed to prove that it was a false accusation, once I was branded as a criminal, it would never go away. Everyone around me would look at me suspiciously for the rest of my life. I didn't want that. I hadn't even done anything. I turned onto a small street that was completely deserted. I kept running as hard as I could. I've been running ever since I'd left at Cafe, and I still haven't been able to catch my breath. My lungs were begging for oxygen. My legs were shaking with fatigue. I hated myself for not exercising more, but it was too late for that regardless. Finally, I couldn't run anymore, so I doubled over and gripped my knees with my hands. The place where I stopped looked familiar. Distinctive red brick walls painted with the gigantic blacklit sign that read Gigantes. I've been here before, with Misumi-kun. We come to see a Phantasm concert, or to be more specific, to see their lead singer, Fez. But now the place was quiet and empty, with the only other light being from the vending machine dimly illuminating my surroundings. Frustrated that my breathing still hadn't gone back to normal, I looked back toward the road I was sprinting down. The street was dimly lit and narrow. As the Tokyo Line train slowly passed by directly above me, despite the striking glow of the light leaking from the windows of the train, even it didn't reach the streets below. I stared at the road in front of me. I wondered if I had managed to lose them. Them being you and the police. It was too dark for me to tell for sure. Come with me. Suddenly I heard a woman's voice in my ear, and I let out a pathetic scream before toppling to the ground. Oh, it's you! It was Fess, dressed in a flashy outfit that she would wear to a concert. As she quietly looked down at me from the darkness, the eruptive energy that she'd given off while she was on stage was now completely absent, making her appear almost transient, like she might disappear at any moment. Because of the darkness, I couldn't see her expression. As my mind wandered in surprise, Fess gently held out her hand to me. Stand up, quickly. Her tone of voice was dispassionate, but I could tell that she wasn't going to let me argue with her. Still holding out her hand, Fess slowly craned her neck, then narrowed her eyes as if she had seen through the darkness. We need to run. Why? Did she know I'd been running from you and the police? I was freaked out for a second, but I knew that right now salvation was almost within my grasp. That was why, as if I was clinging to my only hope left, I took her hand. Her hand was cold to the touch. As I stood up, Fess started running. I was already utterly exhausted. I felt incredible resentment, but I knew that if it hadn't been for Fez, I would never have been able to stand up again, and the police would have likely caught up with me. I still wanted to quench my dying thirst in some way, but I knew I couldn't afford to. Fess pulled me by the hand and led us forward. We entered a narrow alleyway and made turn after turn at various intersections. I had no idea where I was running to. I wasn't even familiar with the layout of Shibuya, so I had no choice but to follow Fess the entire time. I nearly entertained the idea that this could be another trap set by Shogun, but I shook the thought from my head. Even if Fess was another one of Shogun's underlings, there would be nothing I could do about it. My legs were heavy with lactic acid. I was starting to feel lightheaded, probably because my brain hadn't been getting enough oxygen due to all the running. I was this close to crying out and saying that I couldn't run anymore. In fact, I may or may not have said it several times unconsciously. Even so, Fess never once looked back at me. She just kept on going. Before I knew it, I found myself on the road where the Shudo Expressway ran overhead. Shibuya Station was only a little bit farther away, but there were barely any people around. Without a shred of hesitation, Fess started to head down the stairs that led into the gaping maw of the underground. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, she finally came to a stop. I let go of Fez's hand and doubled over on the stairs, gasping for breath. Wondered how much I've been running today. Didn't think I'd ever exercise so much in my entire life. Wow, the only sounds present in the dim, dreary underground tunnel were the sounds of me and Fez breathing. I looked up at the entrance where we had just come down from, but there was no sign of our pursuers. Guess that meant we'd managed to escape somehow. That aside, this was my first time learning that this underground passage even existed. On top of that, even though it was fairly close to the station, there wasn't a single person passing through it. One of the fluorescent lights that illuminated the tunnel was on its last legs, flickering on and off without end. There was a faint smell of rotting garbage in the air. It was a place that symbolized the underground side of Shibuya. If someone were to attack me here, even if I screamed as loud as I could, it may not even reach the outside. This was not a place I would ever want to come alone to. No, we're not doing delusions. Still breathing heavily, I slowly examined Fest's profile. She was a charismatic songstress who captivated the youth of Shibuya. People even called her a prophet. Now, that very same Fez was here alone with an otaku freak piece of shit like me. I wasn't sure what to make of it. Her forehead was beading with sweat, several drops running down her cheeks. She was wiping it off with the back of her hand. Her breast— stop it! A glimpse providing— stop it! No way. No way didn't do it justice. The best and only possible word befitting of her was erotic. Stop it! She was tall, had a great body, and looked like a model. Sure, she was popular with the guys too. But what kind of stupid shit was I thinking about? Did I forget the situation I was in? You're being pursued, were you not? Huh? Yeah. By the police. I nodded in response. It wasn't just the police. Yua was following me too, but I was too exhausted to tell her that. I'm the same. Huh? What was that supposed to mean? They asked me if there was a connection between the lyrics I wrote and some incident I cannot recall the name of. They were very insistent. Nugen. The lyrics that Fez had written matched up with that string of incidents. That was why all her sheep went shut up about all those rumors. They've been saying that she was a prophet. It seems they suspect me. As a Nugen criminal? I thought the same thing back when I first heard her lyrics. Hell, I thought that Fez herself was Shogun. Considering the fact that she'd saved me, she probably wasn't. Putting all that aside, I wondered why Fez was even here. Her saving me must have just been a coincidence. Yeah, it had to be. I mean, I've been right in front of the concert venue, so there's probably just another concert today. You're being pursued as well. Why? Did you do something wrong? She told the police. The girl told the police that she's making me out to be the Nugen criminal. He was trying to set me up. God damn it, Shogun and that girl were going to ruin my life. I see. So we are both potential suspects then. Why was she laughing? I'm innocent. I yelled up frantically. My voice reverberated loudly through the underpass, but I couldn't stop now. I'm just a witness. I just took some evidence back home with me without thinking, that's all. I didn't kill anyone. Then Fess whispered, returning to her original dispassionate voice. It must be the guidance of a higher power. What? Another fucking mental case? Another goddamn Chunibyo. Whether or not what you saw was real or an illusion is inconsequential. Horrible scene. Was there any possibility that it all just been an illusion? That it all felt so real? Pain and anger that you're harboring now is all necessary. What was she saying? I was utterly dejected. I've been slightly suspicious back at the concert, and I turned out to be right. Fez really was a total schizo freak. They say there's a fine line between genius and insanity, but this is pushing it. That's why you must find it. Quickly. Find your sword. I was taken aback. That's what Fez had told me back when we met at school. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. She said this before. Aside from the police, what scared me most was the Shogun and his underlings. I had no idea why, but they were all trying to trap me, and they all clearly had malicious intent. In order to save myself from them, in order to protect myself, I needed a D-sword? Yes. Fess's lips twisted into the shape of a smile. You've been studying, it seems. If that's what you mean, then I already got one. I have a D-sword. It's at my house. I know. She knew. How'd she know? I saw. You were walking directly in the middle of Shibuya. You were gripping a large toy, and you looked fairly embarrassed. She's talking about the day I bought the D-sword? Fess had seen me. Fuck my life. Wait a minute. What she just said? A toy? The smile had already disappeared from Fess's face. Yeah, that one was an actual D-sword. She glanced at my face and let out a small sigh. Her sense of ennui, her aloofness, was so pure it made me feel uneasy. The sword you bought is a fake. I wasn't even that surprised. I'd expected it, honestly. The sword I bought was way too cheap compared to the one Sana had. It didn't even glow. Besides, the idea that a sword would supposedly bring me salvation was being sold for 10,000 yen alongside sex toys was the least anime thing possible. So yeah, I wasn't surprised. Instead, I felt a furious surge of anger well up inside me. Anger at the gloomy shopkeeper who tricked me. Anger at myself for being so pathetic I'd be tricked so easily. Anger at Fess for saying nothing meaningful and decisive instead of just giving me a straight answer. Fine. Stopping moved closer to Fess. Normally I never would have done something like that, but I was desperate. I'd been being chased by you and the police only a few moments ago, and I was absolutely terrified. Not only that, but in the past month or so, I'd experienced countless bad thoughts. It was all too much for me. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get my hands on the sword so I could get back to my peaceful way of life. Tell me, how do I get my hands on a D-sword? Fess's expression stiffened, and then she turned to me. Watch. She suddenly thrust the palm of her right hand out in front of me, stopping me from coming any closer. Fess curled her right hand into a fist, and upon swinging her hand behind her in a motion resembling a back fist, together with a sound akin to that of glass breaking, the empty space cracked, and then it shattered. My eyes went wide. I was speechless. Fess stared at me. Her expression had not changed in the slightest. In the cracks of the shattered space was a deep darkness spreading wide. With her hand buried between the fissures, Fess pulled her hand back toward her with a tremendous force. Oh. So that's what your weapon looks like. It doesn't actually look like a rapier like I thought it did. And now, within that hand, was a giant sword. A D-sword. The fissures in the empty space were repaired in an instant. The cracks disappeared as if nothing had ever even happened. It all happened in the span of a few seconds. Had that been a magic trick? Or was what I was seeing just a delusion? It was far too removed from reality. I can't believe what just happened right in front of me. This was a fantasy. A fantasy anime. This sword is that which bends fate to its will. That sword. It was the same one she'd been wielding at the concert. The same one I mistaken for a microphone stand. Yeah, and the one that I mistake for a rapier because I couldn't see it properly. Its shape almost looked like a battleship ripped straight from a sci-fi anime. This sword is that which converges all sorrows. There were no straight lines to be found on it. Yet it appeared incredibly sharp. Incredibly beautiful. Incredibly sinister. This sword is that which interferes with the transcendental place. And that if you so much as touched it, your fingers would be severed from the bone. Wait, what do you mean transcendental place? I was mesmerized. Her D-sword utterly captivated me. Which is why I'd asked her that without thinking. It's akin to another space. Oh boy, info dump times. This is definitely an anime at this point. Another possibility within the same dimension. Or perhaps a delusion. Delusion? Saying it that way does not provide much in the way of meaning. The sole thing that we know for certain, however, is that this sword exists within that region. So in other words, was she saying that her D-sword was a product of her delusions? Does that mean that the supernatural phenomenon I'd seen before had also been delusions? Had they not been real? That's impossible. Huh? If it was a delusion, why was I seeing Fest's sword right now? Do not be led astray by words. Tried turning around. I was baffled by Fest's request, but I complied anyway. Behind me was a flight of stairs, and on those stairs... What? What's going on? What? Why are there two of you? Fez? Fez, why'd you multiply? What's going on? It was Fez, wearing her school uniform. What? Fez was standing right beside me. Fez was also standing on the stairs right in front of me. They're the same person, in the same place. Completely and utterly flustered, I relentlessly snapped back and forth between two Fezes over and over again, comparing them. They were exactly the same. Right down to their facial features, height, and hairstyles. The only difference were their clothes and whether or not they were carrying a sword. And they weren't twins or anything like that. They didn't just look alike. They were one and the same. This too is your delusion. Two Fezes said that at the exact same time. My head started to hurt. What kind of insane phenomenon was this shit? What the hell was happening? My brain hurt too. Oh, hi there. As he walked cautiously toward the narrow, trash-ridden streets of Maria Macho, found Yasuji jammed one hand inside of his pants pocket. Instead, he found a few dozen small coins. Inside. Sir, what exactly are you expecting to find at the crucifixion's crime scene? It's already been more than 2 weeks since it happened. Don't you think it's been investigated well enough? With all due respect, new evidence isn't going to pop out of thin air. His partner, Detective Suwa, had been walking behind him, grousing in an irritated voice for quite some time. That was understandable, of course, as the job originally assigned to them had been to tail an important witness for the new Gen cases, Nishijo Takumi. However, the two of them had abandoned their tailing mission and instead come to the scene of the third new Gen incident, colloquially known as the Crucifixion. Ban decided to abandon their original task of tailing Nishijo Takumi, forcing the burden onto some other detective in the same jurisdiction. Ramban. The rookie Detective Suwa was not pleased by this. Come on, there's no way this will pan out. Let's just go back into tailing already. The rookie detective had consistently been pushed around by a senior without any explanation, and he could not stand it. For that reason, he had been insistently trying to persuade Ban for a long while now. But to this, Ban only said, "Oh, quit your yapping and follow me." He remained aloof and refused to heed his junior's perfectly sound arguments. Finally, they at last come to a narrow road, blocked off by the yellow barricade tape. As Suwa let out the latest in his myriad of sighs, his cell phone began to vibrate near his chest. He quickly took out the phone, which had been set to vibrate, assumed the look of a capable detective, and pressed the accept button. Suwa here.
Hi.
Yes?
Hi.
Yes. As he listened to Suwa's voice coming from behind him, Ban came to a stop in front of the barricade tape. Behind that tape was the crime scene. A deep darkness had settled over the area, just as it had when the crime had been committed. But now there was no remaining traces of the incident, save for the barricade tape. You lost him! Girl? Looks like they got us. Alright, then go ahead and head back to his house in Shinsen. Yes, make sure to keep your eyes peeled. No, don't worry. Assistant Inspector Ban will take all the flak for you. Ban smiled wryly upon hearing that. Suwa could be surprisingly shrewd. Of course, Ban had no intention of placing the blame onto his subordinates, nor onto the detective he had placed in charge. We'll join up with you as soon as we're done here. We're really sorry about all this. Good luck. Right, Suha hung up the phone and returned his begrudging gaze to Ban. Ban ducked under the tape. Suha had no choice but to reluctantly accompany him. You lost him, huh? He figured he was being tailed. Seems like there'd been some commotion at an internet cafe a bit before that. And the girl? Kishimoto Ayase. A whole late from the band that's been causing us a whole host of trouble. There's a connection between them. They both go to the same school, same year even. Other than that, nothing in particular. Not even classmates. Ban brought a hand to his chin, savoring the rough texture of his stubble for a moment. Afterwards, she took out several coins from his pocket and started counting them in the dark one by one. Suha stared at his eccentric senior with a puzzled look on his face. Yeah, why are you counting coins? What are you up to? Of course, I can't find a 5-yen coin when I actually need one. Suha, you have a 5-yen coin on you? Perplexed, Suha took out a 5-yen coin from his wallet and held it out to Ban. The Ban. However, instead of taking it straight away, Ban tore the bottom button off the shirt he was wearing. He then untied the thread fastened to the button. Sir, have you finally lost it? You got a real mouth on you, you know that? Ban chuckled and lightly whapped Suha on the head. He then took the thread and weaved it through the hole in the center of the coin. Oh! Oh, he's doing the thing that the, Interesting. He knows something more. He's not some, like, old, dumb detective. He knows something more. He's doing the same pendulum thing that the, that those quote-unquote cleaners were doing back at, in Shibuya. Alrighty, I'll let you do the honors. After pinching both ends of the thread with his fingers, Ban let the 5-yen coin hang down and hand it to his junior. A pendulum? Ban smiled mischievously. This little guy might give us an important clue for this case of ours. You're kidding. Ban-san, could you spare me from your craziness for once? Is this why you abandoned your assignment to come here? His tone was almost mournful. He had been pushed around countless times by Ban before now, but this time Ban had finally managed to utterly stump the rookie detective. Is this some kind of psychic investigation, like dowsing or something? You've really been watching too much TV, sir. I gotta get on my case. You sure seem well affiliated with this stuff. Well, yeah, I've checked out a few shows like that. Last week there was one centered on Yuri Brightman. Yuri Brightman. He's a psychic detective from America. What I saw wasn't anything all that flashy. The program did have some esteemed college professor on it. But it was still on TV, yeah? Really like to pick apart every little... You like to pick apart every little thing, don't you? You'll get it once you actually give it a shot. Come on, let it hang down. When his senior issued that request, Suha did not have any room to refuse. His lips pursed in a sullen manner, but he reluctantly accepted the 5-yen coin. He pinched the ends of the string and began to twirl it around in a circle, creating centrifugal motion. It was too dark for either of them to see it clearly, so Ban flicked on a 100-yen cigarette lighter and used it as their light source. You smoke, sir? You smoke, sir? I quit smoking over 10 years ago. Why'd you ask? Well, you've got a lighter on you, so I just figured... I was just prepared, that's all. Right then, so what am I missing here? Try moving around a bit more and then try to stop it. Ban monitored the movement of the 5-yen coin intently. Ban's eyes were so intensely serious, Suha could no longer complain about this being a pointless excursion. Just as I thought. Oh. You get it now, Suha? Get what? The movement of the coin. Doesn't it feel like it's been forming in an ellipse? Oh. Wait. Isn't it... Is it constantly changing or something? Using the thread as support, the dangling 5-yen coin was slowly revolving around in a circular motion. Suwa cocked his head. It's not just because of how I'm swinging it or something.
You trying to make an ellipse?
Well, no, I just kind of made it go around.
Try not to move your hand so much.
Okay. So he consciously tried to move his hand in a circular fashion, but no matter how hard he tried, the trajectory drawn by the 5-yen coin was always elliptical in shape. This is really weird. Why is it staying in a specific motion?
Even if you try to force it to make a different shape, it won't let you, right?
Ben's face was full of pride. Why is the coin not going in a specific motion? Why is it staying in a specific motion, though? So on the other hand, was still not convinced, and continued relentlessly in his quest to try and change the motion of the pendulum.
Well, it's not like this phenomenon can be witnessed just anywhere in Shibuya. Even so, I've heard there are about a dozen places where the same thing happens.
Huh. This really is pretty out there. But what does this have to do with the case? Man looked up in satisfaction, put his lighter back in his pocket, then retrieved the hand fan that he had stabbed between his belt and pants.
Do you know why Shibuya attracts so many youngins to it?
What, because the 5-yen coin forms an ellipse? An ellipse? Suith thought he was making a clever jab, but Man nodded readily in response, calmly fanning his face all the while.
Yep, you got it.
I don't like the fact that there's two people talking at once, so we're gonna go ahead and save here and try and figure out more later. Spoiler, I'm confused. Nothing's making any sense anymore. You gotta love it. But we'll figure it out more next time. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you all later. Peace. I come you.